Are live. I'm just waiting for people to roll in. More people. We have lots of people already on. Okay. Welcome, everybody. My name is Albert. I am the Chief Experience Officer here at Zoo, and we are live. And it's always fun to start these webinars because you are just talking to yourself, essentially rehearsing. But I am joined with producer Ryan here, who is going to be keeping me in line and on time as well. Anyways, yeah, this is it. So it kind of feels always fun to start these things because there's no audience, there's nothing except just me staring into my own face. But I will try to keep you guys entertained over this lunch hour. So hopefully this is, an easy talk for you guys to attend. It's nothing going to be too technical. But there will be time for Q&A afterwards, and feel free to ask questions in the chat. Ryan's going to be checking that thing out and waving myself down just to make sure that I'm answering things. But yeah, a few time wasters just for people who are rolling in for the next couple minutes is that, yeah, again, this whole idea of just doing webinars kind of reminded me of like a movie. And I was just going to say a big pick of the week for me for movies. If you haven't seen it, folks from the 80s and 90s will remember this, is Christian Slater's Pump Up the Volume, where I think this movie invented podcasting, where he was just doing pirate radio from his basement. Really quiet guy at school, but then was this really cool DJ at night who just had like real hot takes. He was kind of probably like Alex Jones before Alex Jones was there. But anyways, funny stuff. Great movie. Something that I all recommend. And maybe half of you have already seen it, but if you haven't, it's hard to find though. That's the one thing. I think you can actually rent it on YouTube. Okay, so why are we here? We're here to talk about design and just the discipline of design and leadership of design. I have some hot takes in here that talk about our experience working in the whole world of software development, website development, and design. But I will explain that later. Really quick, just nice plug for our team. We just were able to launch our new website and kind of update to our brand. So we are just dropping all of our colors and going with this nice bold, what do you call it?
International Red.
International Red. Did you guys come up with that title?
Not.
It's an actual color. Okay. Anyways, so yeah, check it out. I want to know who's all here though. So who's all in the room with me right now? Seems like we got a really good, nice geographical spread of people joining us across the country, and a lot of people who are some friends of us. But I have a little poll for you guys just to fill out, and it goes like this. So in the chat, you'll see that you can actually vote on, or not vote, but just kind of tell us who you are. So you either are a practicing designer or not a designer, but you work closely with them, whether it's a little or a lot, or you don't work with design, but you are interested in understanding the whole process and its place in business. Or you're maybe a design leader that manages other designers and sometimes dives into the work. So really kind of interested to see who's all sort of in there. And maybe you're like kind of a business analyst, experienced designer, but you get to work with design, but sometimes consider yourself a designer. So try to find where you place yourselves. All right. Okay. Yeah, we're getting lots of people like, wow, lots of people signed in here. So yeah, it looks like we got a lot of people who are not designers, but work with them. So that's about 45%. Looks like we got 17% of you guys who are practicing designers. You have 21% who are design leaders, which is really good to see, who are actually diving into the work every once in a while. And 17% again is don't work with designers, but more interested in understanding the whole place in business. So that's who we are today. All right, quickly, again, doing something like this with Zoo. It's always good to kind of know who's on the other side. We definitely know some people who are online today, but definitely a lot of new people, new companies, and new people joining. So this is really fun. Again, we're an experience design consultancy, again, full of designers and developers, project managers. And again, we started in 1995. And this is a long time ago. I started in about 2002. So I've been here for about 22 years, which is kind of insane. But yeah, we were started in 95, like really before the internet was even a thing. It was like a small one-way communication line, but kind of grown to mobile, social, AI, all this stuff. And yeah, it's hard to keep track of. And that's what we're talking about today. This is us. We're, we're not a huge organization. We're about 40, 45 people spread across, Saskatoon primarily, but we have people across, into Kelowna and Calgary and even Ontario. But most of us are still under one roof here in Saskatoon, in beautiful Saskatoon. We're actually located on the first floor where you see here. It's our experience room where we do a lot of our workshops and a lot of design thinking sort of sessions. But more importantly, this is a type of stuff that we do day to day, working on websites, working on applications, helping organizations kind of sort through pretty big projects to do with digital sort of front facing things, a lot of back end things, as well as portal designs. But working across a lot of different industries, from banking to insurance, all the way down to like just government and entertainment and sports. So yeah, this is the stuff we've been doing from the onset of the internet in like 1995. But also because of the internet and the whole thing about websites is that it extends into brands. So we've been also doing a lot of branding lately, which you do some brands and you go right into like vision and missions and a lot of strategic consulting at that point. This is the type of stuff that we really like doing. We really like starting at the beginning and coming up with these different sort of brands and then helping them kind of transform digitally into like the new 2.0 versions of themselves. So yeah, that's day to day, the stuff that we like to do. We always like saying that we like to work in the UX research space and design strategy. We like helping companies to take things from proof of concept all the way down to something that they can prototype and test, all the way down to like the delivery of software and web applications as well. That's kind of where we cut our teeth for, the last 30 years primarily. Again, it's kind of hard to place us. We're not necessarily an advertising agency or like a giant IBM or anything like that, but we do kind of like almost compete in that space or share that space. But what we really like to say in this kind of way that we look at work is that we're organizational Red Bull. We really like to like work with clients and really kind of sneak into these sort of projects and deliver, big applications or layer on top of like existing systems and creating unified front end. That's typically where we kind of accelerate. We like to work alongside with, other agencies and other partners, because we're just one transformation partner. We're not the transformation partner. We're just way too small for that. But we're really the human advocate, design firm that can be with your organization to kind of make sure that we're always considering who the users are. The thing in consulting, it's funny, I was coming up with these sort of existential like questions the other day, and I was just realizing that maybe I haven't helped organizations as much as I thought, or we haven't in the past. We always have these huge like aspirations, and over 20 some years, you start realizing how game changing have we been in a lot of these organizations. Maybe we have, but for me, I always have this higher standard that we want to change, and we always look at like the Apples and the big Amazons of the world and go, why can't we get there? And you will talk about that in a bit today, but it's just one of those things. As a consultant, you promise the world, and sometimes you can't deliver the world, and you really try to help them move to the next phase. But I think that's primarily what we're doing. But ultimately, we want to do game-changing things, and we can talk about why. What is the commonality between 99% of the organizations in the world and why they can't deliver that amazing experience all the time? And it always feels like we're kind of playing catch up. We work really, really hard just to make sure that we're delivering on par what the industry is doing. Rarely do we get to leapfrog. There's our companies out there who do the leapfrogging, and we're always talking about that, but it's less about technology to me, and it's more of a human challenge. And I think that it takes all of us with the clients and the culture to change to be able to do that sort of stuff. So it's not like an indictment on Zoo. It's just more just the reality of the stuff that we're in, is that it's really hard to change huge organizations to think differently. But here's just a go at it. And this is basically where I'm starting out at. So we all know that like transformation's happening, right? We know that digital transformation's happening. The one hot take I have really is that I think it's all less to do with about the technology, but it's on the human side. It's like this tech transformation, the demand of it is really driven by the customers. The customers want all of this stuff, but we can't deliver it to them. And so because of that, we go, okay, we have to deliver this experience, but then we say, oh, well, wait a minute. The stuff that powers this experience is so out of date. So we have to transform like the mainframe, these legacy kind of systems, in order just to provide something like a click and collect or something like that, or even delivery. But this is typically how we've looked at transformation, over the last 30 years, for example. So, when I first started roughly around this time, we always heard the word digital transformation. It's not a new term. We've heard it all the time. Digital transformation. It typically back then meant let's do a makeover. Let's get a website. Let's just go paperless. That's cool, but it still didn't really hit the main foundation of what you needed to transform. If we look at it today, when we look at digital transformation, this is typically like the kind of the order of operations that I see very simply happening is that something happens in technology, like a big breakthrough happens, whether it's an AI or machine learning or virtual reality or whatever, all the different things that are happening. And it happens all over the world. Somewhere somebody comes up with this new idea, but then somewhere, say typically Silicon Valley, they were able to piece that technology together and deliver it in some sort of like fun social way, whether it's like in TikTok, Instagram, or Snapchat, or even like internet porn. Like all these things are very innovative in their own ways, and it brings it to the people in mass quantities. But because of that, instantly, because it's in your hands of a 15-year-old using TikTok, when they go to like a banking app or they go to like an insurance portal or they go to like your mobile phone carrier, they want that technology and they want that experience ASAP. They want it exactly how it was done here because that's reset the standard. That's what we're doing. We're constantly catching up to the standard that's set up from these like 5 or 6 major channels that are out there. And what's happening is that this digital transformation looks a lot bigger now. It doesn't seem like it was that complicated because the experiences are so simple, but really they're starting to realize that, holy man, the amount of effort it's going to require to be able to kind of hit these baseline expectations are so high. So that's why you're starting to see major teams called transformation teams kind of pop up left and right. And then you got these massive systems like SAP coming in, and coordinating this is complicated because if you're like me, you look outside and you're using your phone every day, you start realizing, holy crap, we are living in the future right now. This is sort of what this dystopian world looks like. Everything's connected. It's probably more like this if you think about it, and like the doomsday mentality of the rise of the machines coming and the singularity that we're probably eventually going to hit. I mean, this is stuff that we have to contend with in the experience design world. This isn't just building a nice website. This isn't just about like polishing your brand. It's about understanding all the things that have happened over the last 25 years and understanding that we have to design an experience that considers all of this. Every one of these little things has created a branding touch point or an opportunity or a challenge that we have to design around. So as people who are designing processes or new customer service tools, like it's way bigger than that. It's a big design problem that I think we've underestimated because we think that the technology itself, we're techno optimists, that will just solve it. But the coordination, the adoption, the design of these things is what I'm trying to say needs the biggest coordination of all. And that's why we're talking about leading with design. Uh-oh. I have to share because I put my screen into sleep mode. It's back. All right. We're back. Thanks, Ryan. Thanks for my fat fingers. Okay. With that, I like to kind of start things off by just on a softball side of things and just kind of do something fun. I wanted to show you just, for example, AI. Everybody's talking about it. This isn't an AI talk, but this is kind of the fun thing that we like to do with it and just experiment with it right now. We threw myself into an AI engine, which is probably a dumb move, in retrospect, thinking about it. But now, like, the internet has me, a form of me, and was able to kind of create these sort of things, which we were able to just type in text and allow me to talk.
Hello, Earthlings. This is Albert. Actually, the real Albert. The one in front of you is the imposter. Don't believe anything he says. I hope you enjoyed the local ball game last night. Yay, sports.
So that's spooky. It sounds like me, has kind of like the weird, awkward movements like me, but also you can just type in any language.
Bonjour les terriens. C'est Albert. En fait, le vrai Albert.
Or how about in Chinese, which, again, I don't speak.
大家好，我是艾伯特，其实是真正的艾伯特。
and I definitely don't speak Arabic.
أهلا بكم أيها الناس. هذا ألبرت. في الواقع ألبرت الحقيقي. الشخص الذي أمامكم.
So you can imagine, like, outside of this awkward movement, and again, it's just going to get smarter and better. This is something that could be scary, and something that we as designers and you as organizations have to consider, that this is going to be part of the future. And how do we leverage this, or how do we protect against this? These are all things that we need to consider. All right, just to wake you guys up before we get into some real technical stuff, let's just play a little game here, and we're going to use the chat, because what I'm going to do is play a song that was created by AI, but the lyrics were taken from a popular song. So I took the lyrics from a popular song and put it into an AI engine and try to change the genre. So your job is to identify the song and what song this is before anybody else is. And Neiman, what are we going to give away? We'll be able to monitor. Oh, check this out. We are going to give away these really nice hip sacks from Cotopaxi's. These are 2-liter ones we've given away at conferences before, and they get widely used. These are super awesome for like hiking. So we have 2 of these to give away. So everybody listen in, tune in, and figure out what song this is.
Right now, he's probably slow dancing with a bleached blonde tramp, and she's probably getting frisky. Right now, he's probably buying her some fruity little drink, 'cause she can't shoot a
all right.
whiskey. Right now, he's probably up behind her with a pool stick, showing her how to shoot a combo, and you don't know.
All right. Neiman, who won that?
Looks like, well, Aaron Campbell said Carrie Underwood.
Title or artist will accept. That was Carrie Underwood with
Right now, his brother's
He
slow
Cheat.
dancing with a bleached blonde
All right, so
tramp,
now
and she's
people know
probably getting frisky. Right
what the
now,
rules of the
he's
game are.
probably
Let's go to the
buying
next song. We'll do one more. So Aaron, we are going to find your contact information. We will mail you one of these. We got one more to give away. Again, what song is this one?
She was more like a beauty queen from a movie scene. I said, don't mind, but what do you mean? I am the one who dance on the floor in the round. She said, I am the one who will dance on the floor in the round. She told me her name was Billie Jean, as she calls the scene. Then every head turned
The
with
names.
eyes.
There we go.
Being the one who will
All right. Genevieve Doring said Billie Jean. I think that was a giveaway in the actual lyrics. Spooky stuff though, right, guys? That's spooky stuff. Again, typed in lyrics, created these songs, fully flushed songs that now exist. And again, unpredictable in what that's going to do to the industry. It's happening in writing, in art, in music. Just a fun way to start. But we have 2 things. Genevieve, thank you very much. We will give you this and we will find you. So thanks for playing along, everybody. And that's the presentation. Just kidding. Anyways, let's get into it. So as you know, we're obsessive about experience here at Zoo. Really trying to teach people what that actually means. You know, our whole goal as a company is to make sure that we make this world an easier place to live. Not just a better place, but an easier place to live. And I'm going to tell you why. It's because we're always asking why. Why do people want to do things? And as UX research, we have a lot in common with these different organizations or different kind of groups, because we're really curious, making sure that we're designing solutions that fit what the users want versus just something that we want to do, which has happened with technology because it sounds cool. We just launch something because, oh, they have an app. We'll just launch an app. No, we're not into that, because we're all about branding as well. And we always know that your brand is your experience and your experience is your brand. And if you don't buy into that, that is the first thing you need to understand, is that branding is so less about us telling you what our thing is, but actually proving to you what we can do for you and how we can solve it. And so for all of us who are into this mode of thinking, it's really important to understand that all the touch points is part of your brand, and making sure that it's ubiquitous, it's seamless, homogeneous across all the different channels. And that's what we're trying to get to today. Because we all want the same thing. We want loyalty. We want people to want to wear our brand on their sleeves. And you just, you can create a nice identity and that's great. But the thing that delivers for that identity is the experience. So we're going to talk about that because I think a lot of organizations don't really know what it means to be customer focused. They actually say it a lot, and we know that they say it a lot because it's always on the door, it's always on their website, it's always in their mission. And we talk to these organizations that have this sort of saying all the time is like, oh, we care about the customers. We know that they do. But then we go to ask them and we say, what's your process? Well, they go, oh, we're just kind of the rebranded marketing team. And we're like, that's not about customer satisfaction. That's not about customer experiences. It goes deeper than that. It's deeper than just saying this is what we do. Ultimately, this is my great Photoshop job, is what we know what users want. We are users themselves. And these are all the things just, if you're like, for example, going on online banking or doing an insurance portal, these are all the things you want. You want it to be easy. You want it to match your mental model. You want to be trustworthy. You want to be modern. You want it to have good visual aids. You want to be personalized. All these different things is what they want. It's how do we deliver that? How do we make our brands deliver on that promise? So I'm going to talk about how to lead with design. And basically, I have like 8 different points. And it just talks about the design discipline in so many different ways. This is kind of a combination of different conference talks that I put together that really just kind of outlines like how to think like the designer, how to lead with designer, and why it's important to think that way or have it at senior leadership in your organization. These are no particular order. So let's go number 1. First thing I always say is that if you want to lead with design, you might want to accept that you're actually in the field of design and it's going to help you put your users above anything else. If you just say, hey, instead of like we're designing a new customer service like process or something, just go, no, we're designing something this way. And we're designers. We have to think like that. It's going to change the entire process that you look at rather than just saying, hey, we need a business analyst to look at business requirements, all that stuff. You will start going, no, let's make it a human thing. Let's like talk to users and figure out exactly how they go through it. This is the active service design. Websites can be underneath because it is technically a service, but the whole service design is really the activity of planning and organizing a business's resources. So like the people, the props, and processes in order to directly improve the employee experience and eventually indirectly the customer experience. So it's a mouthful, but it's really the idea that, if you improve the employee experience, you can improve the customer experience. If you are going to accept this sort of honor of being a designer, if you didn't go to classic design school, and designers will fight me on that, the whole thing is that you need to accept that your job is to simplify the complex. And so we all like want the stuff on the right, but we know that the stuff on the left is what we have to sift through. And the more we sift through it and the better we test it is the higher chance of delivering that amazing experience. But it becomes a lot more complicated when you think about the proliferation of all the internet and devices and how things are changing. It's not just like, hey, your website is your touch point. Your website is a touch point, but it's along a string of all these other experiences that you see ahead of you. And this is an old thing. There's so many different new things that are popping up left and right, as we showed in that other slide, that we have to consider. But if you are going to accept this role as a designer, you have to kind of understand there's an oath to it. And it's a very simple one and something that our lead design team like really talks about. And they always say, Al, you got to make sure you say this, is that we got to work really, really hard. Truly, really, really hard in order so that our users don't have to. And I just said, if there's one thing you take from this presentation is, and I'll say this over and over again, is just that. Just work really hard so the users don't have to. It's a very indirect or direct inverse relationship. If you use something that is just not fun to use or easy to use, you always wonder, did the designers of this box or this like cup or whatever actually just use it once? We have so many examples of that in our lives where it's just like, this fridge door is terrible. Did they not just try to open it and realize it's like 5 tons? Like these type of things, it's just because they didn't have enough testing and feedback to really realize, no, the users won't buy this because of this. So think about that. It's just, we just have to work extra hard so the users don't have to. And most of us aren't. We are just shipping stuff out there because it checked off a bottle requirements that, yes, it talked database A to database B. That's great. But did it do it well? That's the thing we haven't really asked ourselves. For those of you listening and want to get started in this whole world, this is a great book. And I have to give props to Jason Fisk from FCC, who probably 12 or 13 years ago gave me this book just as a gift. And it kind of really changed the way we thought about like where websites were. It's like, this is part of a whole service. It also comes along with this website that it's totally free resources. It's great. And it has like all these different exercises on teaching how to do journey mapping, personas, if you want to just do this by yourself, which is great. So yeah, circle this, write it down for later. And we will be sharing some of the links that we have in this presentation for you guys. Okay, so that's like really accepting the role that you were a designer. One thing that executives can do is really start thinking about taking on projects as though your organization is actually a design firm that just happens to be in whatever service. So you are a design firm that just happens to be in manufacturing. You're a design firm that just happens to be in banking. If you took that sort of mentality and changed that culture within your organization, saying that, guys, we are not a banking company. We are not an airline company. We are a design company that just happens to be an airline. That would change the way you approach a lot of your projects. And it would probably result in a different end experience because the pride of the designer will just never want that to be clunky for the user. You get stuff like this if you underpower that sort of experience. And if you don't think about it, this is hotel software. If you just type in hotel software online, sometimes you'll get this spit out at you. And you can imagine if you go to the Marriott's or different hotels, they're probably using some sort of version of this, maybe slightly updated. This slide is kind of old, but I know most of you have come across internal application stuff that looks like this. We've all used it. We have managers and change management agents telling us how to F8, Alt-Tab out of certain things, how to check in people, how to give them refunds. There's a lot of different functionality. So we think it has to look like this, but it doesn't, because guess what? This is also hotel software. We've all used it before. We know what it feels like. We know how easy it is. And this is because Airbnb, they are a design firm that just happens to be in the accommodations industry. That's how they kind of tout themselves. We want people to think that way because we want experiences like this. And the cool thing about Airbnb is that they don't really have like a change management department for the world, right? Like it's not, they probably have a help center and everything, but for the most part, I don't think I've even had to access that. But you could rent out a 300 unit complex and not have to deal with anything to do with change management. You can just walk your way through it. And this is my hot take number 2 about like change management. And there might be change management people in here. And the whole idea for me is that change management shouldn't exist. We can design our way out of change management and having to need it. We've worked on big change management projects, and I just go, man, if this was just designed better, you probably don't need this. And I know this is proven in different industries. For example, most of us are a certain age that remember the world of video games when it first came out. Back in the day, if you ride your bike down to the family movie center or whatever, you'd rent a game and it would have like you pay $2 if you lose this instruction booklet. We know what this instruction booklet is. This was the instructions on how to play the game. You read it, you poured over it before you could actually get to your Nintendo, and then you'd learn how to play the game. But now, if you just play any modern game, it is so spoon-fed to you on how to play the game. And so easy to learn how to do it. It's built into the design. They have full teams to create these educational modules while you're playing the game. And it also plays on lots of psychology, like mental models, gamification. But at the same time, it just tells you like, this is how you strafe. This is how you shoot. This is how you swing your axe, and practice on this low consequence stuff. This is just one way to do it. And this is kind of the easy way of change management. Again, take all your change management budget. I mean, we can debate this and then dump it into design. I'd love to see the results. And there's probably companies out there who just said that we're just going to work without change management. So you could also just do it the old fashioned way and see how far that gets you. And we know exactly how much we love wrestling with printers these days. And it doesn't have to be a printer. It could be more like, an expense system that you guys are implementing in your organization. All right. Number 3 is designing with the user, not for the user, not just testing at the end or demoing. For us, we really like to say, let's bring them along and get validation as we go. And the the days of agency reveals where you kind of like just do this, pull like the curtain off and everybody's like, "Ooh, wow," are kind of gone. For us especially, we like just kind of getting like small affirmations along the way. People just nodding along, going, "Okay, I see this." And that way it's kind of like designing with the user. And for us, that's a lot more important. We love being able to test things early on. And sometimes we'll bring in actual end users to come in and mentally model these things out. And this is just an example of doing an HMI project with miners who are actually going to be using this big machine. And we had to design the way that they interact with it. It seems foolish and it looks like arts and crafts, but it's so important because it's so fast on the way that we can pull in information. No spreadsheets, no Word docs, no system diagrams. It's literally just like, what do you want to see? Where do you want to see it? Why do you want to see it? We can also test things at the very end as well, but you can test like really easy Figma prototypes. And again, this is just commonplace in like Silicon Valley and big software places. But for most of our organizations that we're talking to, don't do this level of testing regularly enough. And you don't have to do it in Figma. You could do it just with hand sketches and just keep iterating. And eventually, just as this is built off that mining project one, and just getting it a little closer every step of the way. And this is really important for people to understand is that like this, yeah, it looks like it takes a lot of budget, but so is redoing work or creating an application that people don't adopt. This is increasing your chances of having good adoption. So that to us is really, really important. On the topic of AI and just testing, just using this to test users. We were just at a conference in February and somebody was talking from like this intelligence firm and they just talked about how Figma, which is like the wireframing and kind of mock-up tool that we use and we test on it as well to create layouts, is moving towards like using AI to be able to listen to people like, testing a wireframe or a system and immediately creating layouts and mock-ups based upon what their feedback was. So it's all mapped to the components like fields and forms and rejigging it live. So then as soon as they're done that test, it shows them something based upon their feedback. That's really spooky stuff. And the people who are all in the room were researchers and UX designers, and they were all looking around and going, holy man, we have like a year and a half to basically find a new job. It's maybe not like that, but at the same time, the speed of this industry is moving and it's trying to make it easier for us to design better products. All right. Number 4 is about leading with design, like truly leading with design. That's the whole idea that we are trying to design the experiences first. And that's really, really important. And a lot of organizations just want this, but they don't understand that behind of it, it's just a big bag of wires. If you start here or looking at the problem like this, or even looking at a problem like this, typically this is like, getting a mortgage to a bank, like all the stuff that happens on the back end. You probably won't get to this if you start with the wires first. You want to be able to have a North Star of what we're trying to achieve. So then IT, security, compliance, finance, the designers all know what we're trying to aim for, because this is highly complex on the back end, but this is all what we want in the end. So does leading, son of a Albert, what's going on? Am I back? All right. Starting and leading with design is really important. And so I just want to say that you can start with things like this. User research. I know it sounds so ridiculous that in this day and age, I have to say start with user research, but you wouldn't imagine how many times we walk into a project where people just have these kind of preconceived notions of how the application or the design or the website should work versus going, well, what do your users think? And then they just go, oh, well, we really haven't talked to them, or we think this. It's not validated by anything. So for us, user research will lead you to problem definitions where we actually go, we know what the real problem is with what the users want. And it's not the app that we thought initially. And determining experience principles, like standing for some sort of values and ways that our experiences are going to map to our brand, whether it's low cost, high polish, or exclusive. All these sort of things can be communicated through those experience principles that will hold you true to that brand. And also storyboarding that happy path. Storyboarding the happy path is what we were showing earlier. Is just show like nice mock-ups and how people are going to interact. If you're omni-channel, not just digital. You might want to really storyboard, like people like tapping, walking, like looking at their phone, understanding all the context, what they are doing with your brand going through the entire journey. And also at some point, suspending technical limitations. You know, we walk into a lot of projects where companies have a backend system that we have to like layer over essentially and have some APIs that talk between it. That becomes really complicated, you know, for most projects. And this is 99% of the projects. Rarely do they say, hey, design it first and we'll choose the backend provider at the end. But that would be a dream come true. But most of the time you walk in and you have these sort of technical limitations at the very beginning, which kind of confine you to certain experiences. But what we like doing is bringing all the people in to get cross-functional buy-in, designers, developers, IT, and go, hey, we all want this. And then you'll realize how much the people on the back end will try to move mountains because we've all bought that in together and we came up with a solution together. So we love doing these cross-functional kind of workshops at the very beginning, rather than just throwing a design over the fence and getting them to design or develop for it, because then they compromise their own things and they end up taking part the design and then building it basically to the spec of the back end. So yeah, some just tips on starting with that. I have a note in here, and Ryan, you should have waved me down earlier. If my presentation isn't big enough, you can slide it. And if it all depends, if you like looking at my face, slide it big and yeah, have at or drink it in. But if you want me smaller in my presentation and my slides to be bigger, you can just slide it and my head will shrink to a point where you don't have to even see what I look like, which is probably what everybody will do. Okay, number 5. Align on solving the user's pain points first. So avoid falling in love with solutions too soon. We've done this over and over where there's one person in the room who just has this wicked idea and is just trying to force it on everybody. We have this even at Zoo. We know that. We have these projects at Zoo. Every company has this. The problem is that we value solutions more than we value learning. And that's a challenge. You know, we want to emphasize that we should be learning first and then coming up with those solutions. But sometimes we just have those loud people in the room. So be able to stop those people or just to combat them. Sometimes you want to ask them, are we buying a drill or are we looking for a drill or do we need a hole? Because a lot of people will prescribe whatever the solution is as the end game. But for us, the end game here is the hole. That's the actual problem. And then the prescribed thing that they have is just the drill. So you got to ask yourself, are we trying to buy a drill or do we need a hole? And that will like open up a lot of discussion within your organization about whether you guys are using the right solution for the right problem. So that's important. I like that analogy, and I feel that one really sticks with the audiences when we talk about that. And it's one of those things you can just go, hey guys, are we getting a drill here or are we actually trying to find a hole? Yeah. In that, I like looking at things from a company perspective. Here's a good case study around just Uber. We all know what Uber's kind of done with the industry, but like let's look back at what they would have done in the 80s and 90s, or the whole industry itself. If like this whole taxi consortium went out and did some research and said, hey guys, what are the biggest pain points? People would say things like, I want to know how much this is going to cost in advance. I never want to talk to a driver. I never want to tip anybody and do that awkward dance. I want to know how long that wait is going to be. I want to know how long the ride's going to be. All this stuff that sounds like crazy magic. In the 80s or 90s, the taxi cab companies would be like, yeah, okay, you want all this stuff, but we definitely have no way to provide that. And could you imagine if we could do this, right? Because all you would need at the time would be all the stuff. Like you would need mobile devices. Think about like e-commerce, like tap to pay, big data, the app store. You would need all this stuff. Google Maps needs to be a thing. But the funny thing is, it all happened, right? We all know that. We know the story. Like all those things were floating out there and somebody said, we're going to align all these stars. And we're going to create a system that can use all that and deliver what that user wants. And today we know what that feels like, right? Cab companies are struggling and it's like they're trying to play catch up, and we've used their apps versus, a designed app like, Lyft or Uber. And it's kind of like just a feeble attempt. And this isn't just the total indictment of the demise of like the taxi industry. It's more about what they did and how they looked at it from the consumer standpoint. So let me explain. The taxi cab industry, if you think about it, for the 15 or 90% of the time, when you're in the cab, it feels kind of the same. It feels like an Uber. Uber feels like a cab. They did not disrupt that time. But what they did was they disrupted that beginning and the end, that frustrating part being on the phone and that part where you just want to get out of the car and go. And what they did was they mapped the journey and realized this is a time where we can actually take advantage of these things. And so basically what they did was they made it really easy peasy all the way through. That whole thing democratized even the ride itself, and it changed. It's like you have rating systems. So then now you got like a guy who actually says, hey, are you hot or you cold? You roll the window down. What kind of music do you want? It's made it slightly better. But really, the thing they won on was those magic moments. And I like calling that the magic moments. And if you think about it, think about your organization. What are magic moments within your organization or your customers' experience? Focus on those, prioritize them, and design a solution for them before your competitors. It's really important. And it's an easy concept just to go, guys, where are our magic moments in this process? What are the things we really need to worry about? Okay, so that was all about, what was it? Designing or not falling in love with solutions too soon. Okay, almost done. A few more left. Here's one that I've always tried to work in. I said the Howard Dean scream from like 2003 or 2004 into a presentation. I've just been like totally obsessed with this sort of like clip for so long, and I thought this is the perfect time to weave it in. So Howard Dean, if you guys remember, 20 years ago, running against John Kerry for the Democratic seat, kind of, good relevant topic as the DNC is going on right now. Howard Dean was like neck to neck with John Kerry to compete against George W. And he was like, he's a physician, really well-respected guy. But then what did he do? He ended up doing this.
We're going to South Carolina and Oklahoma and Arizona and North Dakota and New Mexico. We're going to California and Texas and New York. And we're going to South Dakota and Oregon and Washington and Michigan. And then we're going to Washington, D.C. to take back the White House. Yeah!
Ooh. Yeah, he did that. And, it's universally known as the Dean Scream. And it was something that data didn't need to show you what was going to happen afterwards. This is pre-social media, the internet. This is 2004. It spread like wildfire. Just the idea of that, it made people go, ick, that's not the guy we want. He seems a little like, I don't want this guy with the finger on the nuke. It kind of told us that you maybe should just trust your gut on certain things, and you don't need a data point to tell you that this is going to be bad. And it responded exactly what they thought, like just from their gut instinct. He just basically like plummeted in the polls. There's so many different ways to engage users and get data and do this research. A lot of times we feel like, sometimes we just need to turn our eyes on and look and observe it. And if it feels weird, it most likely is. There are different methods you can be doing all the time. You can be doing things like journey maps. The fun thing about journey maps is that it talks about the touch points along the way, but it also takes in consideration things like emotion and thoughts. And these are things that we, for a long time, never really cared about. But now we're just going, okay, like their emotion, the anxiety is really high at this point. Is there anything we can do? It's really important. Our friend Raj, who used to be at Airbnb, he spoke at our conference at XCamp, and his big presentation was really talking about just looking at users as actual humans versus looking at them as like data points. He was like the data guy, but what he would always do is just like, I just play videos of interviews with executives, and he goes, that changed their minds way more than just reports or like data sheets. He goes, just people like using their instinct to go, yeah, that's not right, we got to change that, was so much more powerful. So sometimes you just have to quit with the measuring all the time. My other hot take, number 3, is that I think we've over measured things and under insighted things. We have this glut of data because I think in the technology world, it was like this big flex that we could collect all this stuff. Look at all this information we have, but we rarely use it for anything. AI is eventually going to come in and help us like naturally use that data to make decisions. But for the longest time, every company we would poll would say, yeah, we're data rich, but insight poor. And it's like, why are we doing this in the first place? So you have to think about that. Let's start looking at people as humans for once. All right. Number 7, Minimal lovable product. We've all heard about the minimal viable product. So let's just talk about this whole lovable product thing. And that lovable thing is that little top of the pyramid that I'm going to talk about, which is all about surprise and delight. And we build all these functional requirements about to check off boxes, right? We do that just to go, it needs to do this, it needs to do this. But like, where's the room for the emotion to like please the user? That's tough. And as designers, we're always trying to like get extra budget. We don't really know how to tell clients like this extra budget's just going to go towards like making it that much more polished. And that's the stuff they're going to feel. So let's just talk about that. There is this sort of beautiful like hotel, and this is the lobby of it. It's called the Parker Meridien in New York, close to Central Park, very opulent, marble floors. But they have this one little like thing where it's like an Easter egg. Now it's kind of blown up, but there's an Easter egg. If you look down the hallway of this one curtain, you'll see this sort of like neon sign. And it's this beautiful hotel, but as soon as you follow that neon sign, you turn into this like total like rustic burger joint that is just a classic diner that also has amazing burgers. And it is just lined up now because people are in on the secret. But when they first developed this, you got to imagine that it's quite a bold decision to go from something like this. And then the designer will say, but we'll have this. That is the surprising and delightful thing. That is the one thing that has changed that hotel into something memorable. Like every hotel in that space and that number of stars delivers similar kind of experiences, but not all of them will have this. So let's talk about that minimal lovable product. We know about the viable product, the whole idea that you need to have like something that's usable and has value at the very beginning, not just like a wheel. The first iteration should be something that still has ability to roll and give some value to the user. That still holds true. But when we're talking about the minimal lovable product, we're talking about sort of like feature sets. And we know that when we're doing core functionality, sometimes we'll talk about core functionality. Like there's that whole idea. It's like, if it's not there, I'm not buying it. So like wheels, air conditioning, these are things like we're going to compare it to like a car. And then you're starting to think, okay, well, let's think about performance project, like features, like things like I'm buying it because of this, like things that you've done that other companies don't have. For example, like touchless trunks or built-in vacuums. They've seen it. It's in the marketing. But then there's this also like higher level than that, which is the surprising and delightful type of features, which is like, I never knew this existed, but now it's all I talk about. And don't kid yourself, you have something this in your closet, in your house, that is like, I bought this for this, but the real benefit that you show your friends is this one little thing. So like relax mode, my friend has like a high-end Beamer and he says that like it has this relax mode that like puffs the scent to you and it puts the chair in a certain way. Like, again, they're running out of ideas, but like that's kind of a surprising, delightful feature that, if you're paying that extra price, they'll add that in there. The funny thing is like surprise and delight is usually an afterthought and we can't think about it that way. If it's part of your brand and you want to be at that level, don't just start like this, where it's just like, let's just give them some base core functionality. And I know that's just the natural way to react when you have budgets and things like that. But maybe look at it like this, where you have a sliver at every stage of the MVP that you have something that is surprising and delightful. Google surprise and delight, you'll start seeing it. That is a natural term in the world of design and product design, is that you still want that sort of thing, that cachet that people want. So we always say, that's the way to go. That's thumbs up. A good company's study about surprising, delightful, really innovative and fun ideas is this team in the South in Savannah, Georgia, called the Savannah Bananas, minor league baseball team, grown in humongous popularity. They're not really even affiliated in the AA, AAA system, but they're now like almost the Harlem Globetrotters, because this guy named Jesse bought the team with his wife and built it from nothing, named the team through the city's vote, dresses up like a banana everywhere he goes, and they have the craziest stunts that they do in games. So they like, if you catch a foul ball, the player's out. They have like a 60-year-old plus set of cheerleaders called the Banana Nanas. And they had $20 tickets, 2-hour time limits, all you can eat. They try so many different things that they're now just written up in business books because one bold person decided to be different than the rest of the league. So yeah, study the Savannah Bananas. It's a great story and something that really inspires us. Again, we're not all baseball teams, so there's certain like limits to creativity that we can have. But I love I love sports and I love baseball, so I'm gonna throw that in. Okay, we're getting closer to the end. 8, respect the craft. And I know I was trying to bequeath everybody with the idea that you're a designer, but understand that designers do have this sort of craft, just like writers and photographers. And those are industries that are just kind of encroached because people like naturally write and take pictures. They do have an eye. They do have an industry that they follow. I like saying that, just understanding that, not cynicism, but just like the idea that designers think this way is that, this is, for example, is a website, and I'm not picking on this one particularly for any reason, other than the logo. They probably launched it, gave it to a lot of people, and they said, hey, this is really nice. They said, yeah. But then for designers, we know that this stuff has been done left and right. We've seen this logo done all the time from the punk rock scene from the 70s. It's something that's a kind of a cheap trick. And so like we're above it, but the industry of design will do something like this, where they'll launch like a hipster logo generator to kind of like, kind of condemn a little bit of the ease and natural ability to create an easy logo. For us, we're better than that. And we want you guys to know that, designers think differently. And what's really hard in the design world is designing something that isn't familiar, something that is simple, iconic, taking a lot of money for a rebrand and then turning around and going to the board and saying, this is your new logo. That's tough, really complicated. But that's what all of these organizations do. Like these high-end designers have to speak at a certain level. So then their iconic simplified logo of just simple vector shapes have meaning down the line. But, we have to withstand all the internet, what has to, all the glorified like armchair quarterbacks out there telling us that we're not good enough for our jobs. Think about design. We love suggesting this book, This Design of Everyday Things by Don Norman. We'll give you the link to that. And Don Norman, one of the godfathers, OGs of the industry of user design. Very easy to read. Okay, I think this is really the last point, is making CX, like customer experience job, everybody's job, and you got to fight like hell. You have to just be able to break some eggs. And we host this thing called X Camp, and we bring a lot of people who are in these CX positions, and they all say, I feel like I'm on an island because, we're very techno heavy, but we really don't know how to solve this human issue. And that's essentially what customer experience is all about. And we always say that it's a good example by organizations like Domino's is that it's not necessarily something that's going to be easy. If you think about Domino's digital transformation, they really took it on the chin. They admitted to themselves that they weren't good enough from a pizza perspective all the way down to delivery, and they tried to reinvent themselves as a technology company that just happens to deliver pizza. They did this with conflict, drama, and there was a lot of I'm assuming a lot of changeover in the management, but they reinvented themselves to be still on top of the industry. And now, if you look at Domino's, they've done so many different things, so many adventurous new experiences that we've used day to day. And sometimes things that just tried but didn't stick, like this emoji ordering where you could just tweet an emoji and you get pizza. Things like that, maybe not as popular, but now they're trying to deliver pizza to people like even on a bike with no remote address. I mean, they're allowed to try these things, and it's really good. On a design leadership standpoint, this is maybe one of the last points I'm going to leave you on, is that I asked one of our old colleagues and design leader, Zach Perkins, who now works at Bentley Systems and has managed other design teams and big organizations as well. And I said, just, hey, what's a good ratio of design to developers in an organization serious about design? He said, well, it depends on the business. Obviously, he would say 10 to 1 is pretty weak. 8 to 1, meaning 8 developers to 1 designers, feels pretty typical. But he said 5 to 1 would suggest that they're really a serious design-focused company. He goes, I have areas where I have about 20 to 1, and it's hard to get some people to understand that it's really not sustainable. He said, but also you can't just hire 20 interns and just kind of pat yourself on the back. He said, a better overall indicator would be to figure out how high up the org chart design is represented. He said, if your design tops out at the director level or below, you're going to have really zero ability to influence critical decisions going forward. And a lot of times it's going to be people throwing things over the fence to you. But he said, if a company has 5 to 1, he goes, that's committing like 15 to 20% of your actual salaries to design. So he said, you're probably going to have a bigger impact to the bottom line. And then he goes on to say, he's like, yeah, thanks a lot for triggering me. We all want more as design. We all want us to be better and have more represented. So I just told him, relax, don't worry. We'll get there with talks like this, right? Okay, Now at the end, what can you do? I don't want to leave you guys just with a lot of philosophy. I want you to say, hey, look in your organization. Do you have like good design advocacy? Do you have like a center of excellence for design? Do you have design leadership represented with titles like CX, UX, experience design? Do you have like a CXO? And you want to design a process, a system, and things like experience principles. And you want to define experience ahead of technology decisions. Try to do that a little bit. You don't have to do that like to the length that I'm suggesting, but just try, think and suspend it just for a little bit. See how far that gets you. Again, we talked about designing with and not for. The whole idea of prototyping early and often and rinse and repeat. Creating an iterative customer engagement process so you can continually do those iterative tests and you have sort of a panel, but you also refresh who's in there so they don't feel like that they're part of the company. Here's another one is like become observers, not consumers. If you want to really think about like being a designer, use Instagram, Reddit, YouTube, but just click on a button and predict what sort of experience you're going to have. Don't just sit there and just becoming a consumer. You really want to start like understanding all the thought that goes behind each step. Then I think takes your employee experience just as serious as your customer experience because they're really intertwined. And then never say things ever that you will just reskin something because that's kind of the bane of our existence as designers. We're always trying to say it's not just reskinning, it's rethinking, it's reinventing it. It's culturally changing your organization to attack that problem differently. Who's with me on that? And finally, here's that work really, really hard. Just think about that all the time when you're just designing an experience or thinking about a new process. Are we working hard enough so that when the process gets unveiled, it's easy to do? Okay. Now you can applaud. We're at the end. Just a quick plug, not even just a plug, but it's also just explaining like Zoo Academy. We also have this arm that we train organizations to think this way. We have like a really intense 3-day, 6-day kind of academy where we teach organizations on how to work through problems, not just necessarily like a digital problem, but get them to understand how you can prototype really any sort of thing. Proof of concept. If you have an idea and you want to bring it to life, we have the process that we like to teach organizations to really shake up that conventional thinking. And again, we base it off of this sort of design thinking process, which is like 5 steps of research, insights, coming up with ideas and trying them out. But we also talk about things like the death of design thinking because it's less about the term, but it's more about human-centered design. And I know there's a lot of articles and cynicism around that, but like we're on top of it and we really are following it on. But we know that there's this whole human-centered design thing that's not going to go away. Like listening to your customers, knowing who they are, designing around them for them. I mean, that's just common sense. But yeah, in there, we also will teach things like day 5, we'll go through, and day 6, we'll go through the actual design sprint. And that's a methodology that we like. And a lot of, we've had questions come in earlier for this stuff. And people are asking like, what's the best way to sort of change your culture, but also implement like the design sprint. And a lot of times it's just diving in and doing it in something low stakes, but something that is probably sprintable. Don't try to take the biggest problem, but, go through the whole program. Again, we teach this stuff, so it's easy. Like we can just say we can mentor you and do that. And we do that with organizations where we, for a week, sit with a future facilitator of your design sprints, and they can watch us go through the schedules, go through the templates, go through the exercises, explain why we do these exercises, and then hopefully release you into the wild. Like we're never the company who will do sprints continually for companies, but we like to teach and then mentor and then eventually take the training wheels off. The type of people that we deal with typically for Zoo Academy are like, you're probably the people who are in this call today. So like probably a good target audience for the people who want to join. We've just seen so many different type of positions kind of come in and get a lot of value from it. Again, last plug is like keep an eye out for all the stuff that's happening with Zoo. We're constantly trying to push things into the industry. We just came off of running a very successful X Camp, which stands for Experience Camp, and it's kind of a small 80 to 100 person conference where we really just talk about all the things that are happening in customer experience and in design, and bringing leaders in this space across North America into Saskatoon and in Regina. So we're just in the midst of planning what version 3 is going to look like. But again, stay tuned, subscribe. But also check out our new website. We just launched it today. It's, you know, kudos to the team. It's so complicated to do something very simple for your organization when everybody has such a stake in it. I'm really happy with like what we came up with. It's very simple and it's probably going to last us for a while, but give us some feedback, whether you find a bug or you just want to tell us what really stood out to you. We're really interested in kind of just taking public opinion. We haven't really fully launched it or anything. We just kind of doing a soft launch at this point.